The one-race ban that was handed down by NASCAR to Bubba Wallace is now finally gone, and he will return this weekend to the Martinsville Speedway. Many experts and fans thought that the penalty Wallace has received was a very small one, and Bubba will have a chance to prove to them that they are right, and the penalty was indeed a slap on the wrist like they are labeling it. Now that he and Denny Hamlin will race on the same track, Wallace can do something that will ensure that Hamlin enters the top 4 in the Cup Series Championship, and many fear that this outcome will see the light of the day. Wallace is known as one of the dirtiest drivers on the NASCAR grid, and that has been proven all over again throughout the 2022 season. The latest outburst was at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and the fact that Wallace will be back racing again after just a one-race suspension is something that doesn't sit right with many fans and experts, including Kyle Petty. Still, we'll get to this later, as we want to explain a possible scenario about what Wallace can do to secure Hamlin's spot in the Cup Series Championship. Hamlin is the co-owner of 23XI Racing, a team that was founded together with Michael Jordan, and Wallace is driving for this team. Bubba Wallace doesn't have much to lose at this point as he is out of the competition, but his boss has a lot to gain from this race in Martinsville. The fact that Hamlin kept Wallace on the team for so long after Wallace did all kinds of stupid things that weren't easy to justify could mean that Wallace's time to return the favor has come. So, many fear that Bubba will play the dirty game in Martinsville and try to deliberately crash into someone or hold up drivers that are in the contention as well, in order to help his boss, Denny Hamlin. This isn't a far-fetched scenario, and the fact that Wallace has caused so many troubles in the past speaks enough for itself. For example, Wallace became the first Cup Series driver to be issued a suspension for on-track antics in nearly 7 years after his actions at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway 2 weeks ago. His crash saw Larson and Christopher Bell, a legitimate championship contender, crash because Larson passed Wallace after squeezing him against the Turn 4 wall. The two cars never made contact, but Wallace contacted the wall a bit, which was purely his fault because he refused to lift. The fact that Larson's reaction was so smooth and the fact that there were officials there to prevent further outbursts from Wallace just goes to show that this could have been a much bigger incident. After crashing, Wallace went straight towards Larson to confront him, pushing and shoving an official in his way. This is why many are fearing that Wallace can repeat his actions yet again in Martinsville, as his stakes to losing something are 0, while Hamlin can gain a lot out of Bubba's actions. This is something that has happened earlier, and it wouldn't be a novelty if a driver tries to hold up multiple cars just for the sake of his teammate winning the race or gaining valuable points to enter into the Final Four. Wallace's actions would have to be closely monitored during the Martinsville Speedway, especially if Hamlin finds himself in a position to win the race or be in a very valuable spot that could push him into the Final Four spots in the championship. Wallace's actions have been judged all over the NASCAR world, and the former NASCAR champion Joey Logano had a very cruel response to the 23XI Racing driver, adding, "The retaliation is not okay in the way it happened. If he spun him to the infield, maybe it's a little better, maybe. But right rear hooking somebody in the dogleg is not okay. I don't know if everybody realizes how bad that could have been. That could have been the end of Kyle Larson's career. That, to me, was what was on the line, or his life. That is the worst place to get right rear hooked into a corner." According to Logano, Wallace used his car as a weapon, which is something that doesn't sit right with him. "I don't like using cars as a weapon. If you're that mad, just get out and fight him. That's fine. But do I think straight up blasting them into the wall is okay? No, because the consequences are way bigger than just a race." It's one of the craziest incidents that happened in NASCAR, and the fact that Christopher Bell was there to literally hold Larson's car has helped a lot. Although he was taken out as collateral damage, he did serve a purpose in saving Larson's career and making him able to race yet again. Hamlin will be in heavy competition with drivers like Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, and Chase Briscoe. As of now, Hamlin sits 5 points below Byron for one of the 3 available spots for the final race, where the champion will be declared. With the accidents that Christopher Bell had, along with an 11th place finish on Sunday in Las Vegas, his chances are now extremely low to push forward. So Hamlin's biggest competition would be with Byron, Elliott, and Blaney. This is something that Hamlin can capitalize on, given the fact that he does have a driver in 23XI Racing that does owe him a favor for still having a racing career. Bubba Wallace can use some of the old tricks, such as holding up drivers in the pit lane or intentionally crashing into some of the drivers that could endanger Hamlin's spot for the final race on November 6th. Hamlin's race in April here in Martinsville wasn't truly a spectacular one, and one aspect that he needs to improve on is the short run. Denny has had huge problems when it comes to restarts, and at the last race he slapped the wall and faded back to his 7th place position while running in the top 5 prior to the restart. As of now, Denny Hamlin will have the fiercest battle with Byron because both of them are separated by just 5 points. If this turns out to be an interesting race in Martinsville between these two drivers, chances that Wallace will intervene somehow in an aid to help his boss are realistic ones. Hamlin spoke about the race in Martinsville, adding, "My thoughts are we have to get a little better on the short run. It's going to be super important how important track position is at Martinsville. We have to qualify well. Yeah, just go and try to be better." But there is one outcome that we need to remember apart from this battle, and that is the fact that if anyone from Blaney, Briscoe, or Bell wins the race, then both Hamlin and Byron will be out of the running for the last race on November 6th. What this means is that, apart from having Byron as his primary target, Wallace could very well focus on any one of these 3 drivers if they are threatening to win the race by any chance. This is why Wallace will have full hands of work on Sunday, and rest assured that it will be a challenge for his boss to beat Byron and the rest of the grid in order to enter into the competition for the final race. But if Wallace does something like this and tries to take out a driver intentionally or hold them up in the pit lane, then Kyle Petty's verdict on Wallace was a truthful one. Earlier this week, Petty spoke about Wallace's penalty that was given to him by NASCAR, which was just a 1-race ban, saying that it was a funny one and that he needed to receive a 1-year ban. When talking about this matter, Petty said, "He should have been suspended for the rest of the year. Rest of the year." He drives for Denny Hamlin, who has been vocal about safety. His teammate Kurt Busch, the only reason he's in the number 45 car is his teammate's career was all but ended because of an accident in this car, that the drivers have vocalized that it needs to be safer. He turns a guy in the right rear into the outside wall intentionally. Steering brake? That's laughable. Turns a guy into the outside wall, then walks across the racetrack. First, you intentionally wreck somebody, that's a suspension. He's walking across the racetrack and cars are going by him on both sides, that's not safe. That should be another suspension. With that being said, do you think that Wallace will intentionally take out a driver at the last race in Martinsville just to help his boss by entering the final race on November 6th? And do you think that if Wallace indeed tries something like this, his career in NASCAR is practically over? Let us know in the comments below.